In this video, I'll take you through your first steps using the Vega Cloud platform. We'll cover logging in, navigating the Vega interface, configuring your user settings, and then we'll jump in and build a report together to find trending weekly AI spend. We'll cover a lot of ground in this Quickstart tutorial, and I'll be sharing tips and tricks as we go. So grab a beverage, fire up the web browser on your FinOps battle station, and I'll see you there. We're going to start with orienting ourselves and setting up our user profile, and we're even going to create our first FinOps analysis. Okay, so on my screen, I'm at the Vega Cloud login prompt. So what you're going to do is log into your Vega portal address. Your URL is typically going to be your organization name .vegacloud.io. In this example, I'm in demo company, so I've gone to democompany.vegacloud.io. You'll also see a couple things here. If your administrators set you up with single sign-on, then you're going to see a link right at the bottom, and you'd click on this. It will redirect you to your single sign-on. If you use Microsoft or Okta, for example, that would bring you to those different sign-in portals. You'd authenticate, and if you haven't logged in before, it'll provision your account automatically. You can also use a local account and local accounts with multi-factor authentication. I'm going to log in. So when you first log in, you're going to be brought here to the spend overview page. Let me highlight a couple things. This left sidebar is going to include sort of the main areas of the platform. So your first click will tend to be in one of these areas. And just to explain it briefly, Inform, that's going to include your visibility-based dashboards, things like what your current spend is, where it's been, and how it's trending. Things like anomalous spend, forecasting for future spend based on prior usage, and a number of other views depending on what you're looking for. We'll have videos that go into depth with each one of these. Down here under Optimize is where you're going to find your recommendations. So what are recommendations? Well, these are things that the Vega platform is doing a calculation on based on your usage to say where things can be optimized. That includes both usage. So if you have idle resources or waste, things like that, we'll surface what those resources are and why. It'll also address rate-based optimization. So things like committed use discounts, RIs, and savings plans. And depending on where you sit in the organization or what your role is, if you're a FinOps practitioner, then that may be super important. If you are an engineer or a line of business user and want to just get visibility into your spend, then you may not need to worry about that. But all of those are going to be down here in Optimize. And Operate, this is going to include our enterprise scheduler. And what that does is it powers on and off automatically resources at a schedule that you predefine. So think of it like how you would turn light switches off when you leave a room. It's the same idea. The scheduler is going to take care of powering off resources when you're not in the room. Okay, let's dive into the user profile settings. So if you click here on the right, you'll have your initials if you haven't set anything up yet, and you've got profile settings. Let's set up this profile. You'll have some of your basic details built in here, name and email. You can also set an image. So if you don't want to see your initials up at the top, you can add an image. So let's do that. Find a recent headshot. I've got my corporate headshot. I just took this one this past weekend. Wow. What a handsome fellow. Great. Look, and you can already see it's updated in the platform. If you're interested in using API, you can also build out your API credentials here. And notifications and alerts. This is something we'll walk through this configuration right now, but it's worth noting Vega's not going to email you a ton of alerts unless you opt into them. And the reason is we don't want to spam you with a bunch of alerts and then have you be numb to them. So if you prefer to have a notification sent to you via email, you can do that. You can also log in the platform at any point in time and see this same information. And so let's set these up. If you want to be alerted when you have an anomaly, so any anomalous spend on a daily basis, this section is where you can configure that. I've already opted in here. New user is going to see this be off, so you can toggle this on and off whenever you would like. And if you're using the enterprise scheduler, sometimes we'll call this parking, you can also be alerted to any failure. So if there's a problem with the resource coming back online after the schedule tries to power it on, this is a quick way to get notified that there's something to address. Okay, one other thing while we're on this page, depending on your role in the platform, you may or may not see organization settings. If you're not an administrator, you may not see any of these. If you are an administrator, you'll see these options as well. We'll go into the depth with each one of these configurations in our administrative video. But it's also worth noting, particularly when it comes to notifications, that there are additional notifications that can be set up at a top level. So if you want notifications to be sent to Slack or Teams, you can do that here. Again, we'll cover that in another video. Okay, your user profile has been set up. Let's do an example analysis. So I'm going to click here on Navigator. And the example that we're going to want to set up here today, let's say we want to look at our artificial intelligence spend or AI spend across all of the cloud environments in the Vega platform to see how our AI spend is trending. I want to look at a weekly view, and I also want to have a report that I can recall quickly so I can look week over week at the trend. So how do we do that in the Vega platform? Well, first off, let's talk about controls. These controls, I've just expanded here on our spend overview. You'll find them on every dashboard in the platform. And these are going to give you handy fields that are going to let you additively filter down in the data set that you're looking at. It'll also have different fields depending on the type of dashboard you're looking at to toggle between different options or set parameters. So in this example, if you wanted to look at your cash amount instead of your net fiscal or your amortized amount, you could do that. Let's jump here to Cost Navigator for example though. So again, what we're going to look to do is take a weekly view of AI spend. And what Cost Navigator does is it sits on top of the Vega data set, and it gives you a number of handy FinOps controls that lets you dive into that data. So I'm going to minimize the sidebar using that little helper there and expand the controls. This page usually has the most options under controls, and it can be overwhelming at first, but Cost Navigator is very powerful for two reasons. One is it gives you access to the data platform and all the different fields. So you can do all sorts of analysis on the fly right here in this view. It's also powerful because that means you don't need to create a new dashboard, a custom dashboard layout, and build out pivots and troubleshoot how they all integrate together and how filters work. So this sits really in the middle of the bell curve, if you will, around power and simplicity, despite all of the fields you see here. And it's very common as you're practicing FinOps to end up here. We do have the ability to build out custom dashboards, just like I mentioned there for that example, and there's plenty of reasons why you would want to do that. But Cost Navigator is going to help you really dive in and do a lot of the bread and butter, sort of the everyday tasks quickly without needing to start from scratch each time. And what does that mean? Well, first, you're going to be able to group by multiple layers. So we've got actually four group bys now here in the platform. These are going to be nested underneath each other. Right now, we're just really grouping by one, which is our cloud product. As I scroll down here, we're going to start to see our visual graph. So again, those filters are going to tie down to this visual graph, as well as a data table underneath. So you can see right here, we've got our cloud products, and it looks like we've got a day by day view. Our use case was to look at the weekly cloud spend for AI services. And in this data set, it's multi-cloud. So that means AWS, Azure, GCP. We can actually double check which ones we have by opening up our cloud provider options here. You can see there's multiple data sources here across multiple providers. We're going to keep all of them active. We know we want a weekly view. So let's focus down here on our date-based fields. First, date granularity, it's set to day. And the usage day is including a range of days where that usage happened. Here it's the last 45 days. Let's change our granularity from day to week. All right, you can see that the graph already has updated beneath here. And you can see multiple week views. If I close this, you can see multiple weeks are included. The reason is we've got 45 days included. So even though those are counting days, there's multiple weeks in 45 days, and that's what's being shown below. You can change those units depending on your analysis, but for the sake of this demonstration, let's just keep 45 days. We've got multiple weeks. It's great. All right, next we want to look at the AI spend. So for AI spend, there's a few things behind that. One, you may know specifically an AI product that you want to surface. Maybe it's a Vertex AI on your Google portfolio. You can certainly do that. But in our example here, we want to see all of the AI spend. And so what we're going to do is leverage the Vega Common Taxonomy, which gives you multiple higher level groupings that let you use that higher level categorization around different products. So we actually have a hierarchy built around this where there's a group, category, and you can get specific with products and product detail categories. So really getting down to things you would see as line items on your bill. Let's start here up at the top. You're going to see there's a handful of options. I can scroll through this list. And these are just real high level groupings. Let's type in artificial intelligence. Well, it's already there. Artificial intelligence, we'll select that. You can select multiple groups too in any of these fields. So they are multi-select. For our example, we just want our AI spend. We're going to look at the cloud product. So we'll keep it there. You know what? Maybe let's look at our cost category as a secondary group. Great. All right, let's see what we've got here. So we can see that we've got our weekly spend now showing, and you can already see that there's a visual trend down. So hopefully that aligns with what your expectations would be. Here in the table on the bottom, look, there's Vertex AI. It's one of the products. So we're seeing that right here up at the top, along with GitHub Copilot. We've got some Amazon Transcribe. So again, it's multi-cloud, and you've got a summary table here. We can use our controls to expand this out if we want to get a better view. You can also click here on the three dots and export to Excel or CSV if you also want to just process this in a spreadsheet. You'll notice we've got the plus sign next to these. This is how you see the multiple group bys, that nesting. You'll be able to expand this out. So here we're looking at a cloud product name with the cost category. So that's on demand. We haven't set any additional beneath that one. So this is a handy analysis. I may even want to come back to this next week, but I don't want to have to click all of these fields every time or remember what I clicked before. And if you don't want to do that, that's no problem, because we've got here bookmarks. So you're going to see this little field on any of these dashboards. And what bookmarks are going to let you do, when we click on it, you're going to see all of your bookmarks that are set. I've got some that I've built in here before. Let's add a new one, and we'll call this one Weekly AI Spend. Save that. Now we've got a new one right here. And just to show you how this works, I'm going to click up here. Another handy tool to know is the reset button. What the reset button does is it takes any of your filters and parameters and brings them back to the original state, so before you did anything. So when we click on that, this will bring us right back to our 45 days of daily view cloud product spend. And you can see all of these are reset. Okay. A week has gone by. Where's my AI spend at? So I'll click on the bookmark, and here it's going to load all of those different filters. And you can see we're right back to where we were before. Great. If you're following along, then you've just created your first FinOps analysis in the Vega platform. Very simple example, but it's also a very powerful workflow. For any sort of insight that you may want to find and then recall later, those bookmarks are going to come in handy. And Cost Navigator will save you a lot of time. Once you start to figure out how that taxonomy works and where to find data, you'll be able to fly through this pretty quickly. All right, we've covered a lot of ground in a short amount of time. In the last 15 minutes, you've learned how to log into the platform, navigate around the Vega sidebar, controls, and the user settings. You've configured your notification settings and even built out a report for an analysis. And you've saved it for quick recall later using bookmarks. We've also covered a number of handy tips and tricks as we've gone across, things like exporting to PDF and Excel. Of course, we've just scratched the surface of what you can do with Vega, so join me in the next video where we'll dive deeper into the Inform section of the Vega platform. All right, I'll see you there.